In today's video, we have a scary trend, a family's denial, Dr. Siegel's alarming statements, and how likely charges will be filed. According to the University of Missouri School of Law's Associate Dean Ben Trachtenberg. It's a tragic and heartbreaking thing to talk about, but if an open conversation is something you prefer, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the point, so let's talk about it.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
When the wind stops blowing, I'll get back to the video. We are at a point in our country where everybody needs to sit down and talk to their loved ones about the dangers of substance abuse. The fact remains we can't approach this subject as we did in the early 2000s to later. What happened to those three individuals wasn't just a simple case of using one substance. It was polysubstance abuse here, two different substances. And when these things are combined, the effects are catastrophic. A lot of people actively seek doing something like this because of the intensity of the feeling it brings them. But that is a fine line to walk, and it has cost a lot of people their lives. Now, what makes that situation worse is that the family has been in denial of the possibility of this thing largely throughout most of the discussion online. They have made these statements that none of these people used any type of substances whatsoever. They may have smoked a little bit, they may have drank a little bit, but they were not substance abusers. And it was their testimony and their own words that fueled the speculation going into Jordan Willis. Now, while his actions were strange and they warranted a conversation, there were several people who got on social media and the media and said they didn't appreciate anybody raising the possibility that one of these three or all of these three had abused substances. And when that toxicology report came out, a lot of people were saying, okay, well, maybe it was just recreational and this was something that just went wrong. Well, Dr. Siegel gave a very interesting statement, and I'll play it for you right here.
We have brought in Fox News medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel, and lethal levels, but it seems to me very odd that you have three grown men, good-sized men, that go out in the backyard and then simultaneously.
But it was also fentanyl, and this little most was the person stops breathing or their heart stops beating. Why they at the exact same time, to me, means that they took a ton of medication or of these at the same time.
In that clip, he says very clearly that the amount of substances needed to make three grown men all pass out at the same time would have been pretty large. So if this was a situation where it was just recreational use, why was the quantity so high? You wouldn't think with that amount listed in their system that this was just an occasional thing for them. It almost makes you wonder as if they were hiding something to a degree. Because the family has said, once again, they didn't do anything like this, but then they find massive amounts of several different types of substances in their system. Way more than what would be required to make somebody pass out. And now we kind of raise the question to ourselves, is this a situation where those three individuals just led a secret life and kept everybody in the dark? Or was the family being ignorant to a couple of signs here? What they're going through is absolutely tragic, and the situation they're in is unimaginable. But we have to ask ourselves, if this was something they didn't do, then why was so much found in their system? It is either they were hiding it very well, or this was just a night where everything happened to go wrong, which is a possibility. And as I've said in other videos, and other content creators have done the same, if substances were found in their system, why is there no criminal charges? How is that not a criminal act? Well, Ben Trachtenberg is an associate dean at the Missouri School of Law, and he made some interesting comments in People magazine, and I'll play it for you right here. Any fentanyl in the systems of these men is pretty suspicious and suggests something bad happened to them, says Ben Trachtenberg, an associate dean and professor at the University of Missouri School of Law. He adds that if the case turns out to have a criminal component, the question is, who do you want to charge? In a statement to People Friday, Elena Gonzalez, a spokeswoman for the department, said there were no plans at this time to release additional details or reports of the case to the media. Gonzalez called the case an ongoing passing investigation. Tragedies are not always criminal, Trachtenberg notes, and even if a crime was committed, a viable criminal case could hinge on what the remaining two men who survived the party might know. And what are they willing to tell police? There are a couple of possibilities of what happened here, Trachtenberg says, listing off hypothetical reasons for these men's passings. One, they knew they were taking substances, and something about these substances went horribly wrong. That has certainly happened before. Another possibility, Trachtenberg says, is that somehow these three men had substances in their system completely unknowingly. The idea that someone slipped a substance into something they were eating or drinking is at least possible. In cases like these, Trachtenberg says, state and federal prosecutors have a track record of bringing criminal charges, but he warns such cases often require someone with inside knowledge of what happened. Usually, in an ordinary substance sale, neither the buyer nor the seller has any interest in talking to the police. He said, adding, it's not likely there's an envelope hanging around with the seller's business card. So if criminal charges are going to come, it hinges heavily on the eyewitness testimony of the two remaining individuals who were at that home that night. He said very clearly, it's not as if people who deal in substance distribution leave business cards everywhere to announce who they are, where they live, and where they can get it. It is fair to mention the authorities had said Jordan Willis was cooperative. Now, his actions after the fact have been strange, but the cat's out of the bag now. So somebody's going to have to be very open with authorities. It was brought up on other channels that the fifth guest has some criminal charges tied to something like this. But one of those two individuals is going to have to be very open and very transparent with authorities if we want to see somebody get charged here. We don't know how cooperative they have been or how cooperative they haven't been. All we have is what the authorities have said, that this is an ongoing passing investigation. And Jordan Willis was cooperative. And I'm still inclined to believe at this point the reason they're saying no foul play is because they don't want to alarm anybody tied to this situation. But that is just my own personal thought. That is just my own guess. If you see any of these things differently, you can let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Y'all stay safe. I'll catch you in the next one.